science originates in Africa, and the language we've been forced to use keeps us in a state of confusion. Factually, we shall see that Africa is the source of high culture and technology, which Western people call civilization, which for them connotes technology, and our world has been deliberately turned upside down. White people are trying to claim everything which historically and culturally Africans created. So this is one of my mantras I have for my class, is what I come to realize over the years, that we know a lot, yet paradoxically, we know very little about the lot that we know. And in my reading, I come across this great book written in 1793 by Count Volney, an aristocrat that went to Africa and he had a revelation. So this is what he wrote in his book. So on the examination of the gosness which Africa has given to the world, we shall see why C.F. Volney wrote this in his book, Ruins of Empires, published in 1793, which was just 5 years before Napoleon Bonaparte invaded with his soldiers, engineers, and scientists. And so this is what he wrote in page 16 and 17 about Africa. There people now forgotten, discovered while others were yet barbarians, the elements of the arts and sciences, a race of men now rejected from society for their sable skin and frizzled hair, founded on the study of the laws of nature, their civil and religious systems which still govern the universe, written in 1793. So he was very astute and forward-thinking person, saying that we Africans have everything that was be utilized today in society was created in Africa. So my other mantra for this, my reasoning for this here, given this information, is receiving correct information inculcates correct knowledge and generates correct thinking, which produces correct action. So this is the foundation for correct movements, correct information. Once you have a foundation of correct information, then everything flows. But this is why we're in confusion, because we go through so many incorrect information that we always end up wrong. So a very important part of the study is etymology, which is the origin, structure, meaning, and use of words. For example, I have just used 3 words which, while they mean the same, appear to have different origins, yet they're historically tied to the one source, Africa. So the words is in English is know, in Latin is science, in Greek is gosnos. And this last word is in diagnosis and also in cognition, which is derived from the Latin, who borrowed it from the Greeks. And historically, like the French, long after the Greeks invaded Africa in 325 BCE. And this is why you find in dictionaries Latin coming from the Greek, as they always say. Yeah, so under Alexander the Greek, who defeated the Assyrians, who had themselves invaded in 525 BCE. So we see from 25 BC to now, Africa has been ruled by foreign elements. Or when I say Africa, I'm talking about Kemet, Egypt, as they call it nowadays. So after the Alexander invaded and claimed the high culture they found as theirs, the Romans defeated them in about 50 AC or 50 BCE, did the same as far as coming in and claiming everything. So with the others who came after, like the Arabs in 641 to 661 ACE, or after the Common Era. I use the terms ACE after Common Era and BCE as before the Common Era. Common Era being this Christian era. Says, now they all claim the wisdom that Count Volney spoke of, yet which they never created wherever they came from. So all the people coming in and claiming all of this knowledge, as the Greeks and the Romans and the Arabs, all of them that came into Africa found all this knowledge, and now they claim it as theirs, building up their societies. Now, Western society makes the claim that it is built upon the foundations of ancient Rome and Greece. And when you look at a dictionary, you'll notice that while lots of words are derived from other languages, they claim many are derived via Latin or Greek, with many Latin words based on Greek ones and not the other way around. Now we can see it is because they both got their education in Africa, yet refuse to credit African genius as true source. So all the Greek philosophers, all the Roman generals whomsoever, all of them got their start in Africa. So as growing up, I was told to say what you mean and mean what you say. Yet now this poses a very serious difficulty. If you only know the definition of a word and not what the word actually means. And they can be very opposing because of how the word has been used over time. So where it will start out meaning one thing, but then because of its use, it changes its, not the meaning, but it changes its definition. So an example of this is, stop being silly and be nice. That's what you tell your children when you're getting out of hand. You want to do quiet them down. So you're thinking to improve one's character, the children. Yet silly comes from the Old English, Anglo-Saxon, and Icelandic. It means to be blessed, prosperous, and happy and good. Nice is a compound word derived from the Old French. Yeah, borrowed from the Old French. It was derived from the Latin nascius. In English, you find the word is nasciens. Yeah, compounded the ni, which is the end part of which means not, and skill, IC, is to know. Yeah, literally means to be ignorant or not to know. This is what nice means. So this shows how wrong we can be. So while definitions of words can and do change because of how they're used, yet the meanings never do. In other words, how to think about this here is a word just through its usage and how it's used changes definitions, but the meaning of it never ever changes. So this is where we have to study words and see what they mean. Because if you're using words out of context, like in this instance here, so the blessing is actually a curse, and the curse is actually a blessing. So when you tell somebody to be nice, you're telling them to be stupid and ignorant. And when you tell them stop being silly, you're telling them to stop elevating themselves, stop being good, stop being prosperous, stop being happy. So yeah, we have to be very careful. How I say, sound word power. The power of the word is in the sound. It's a vibration thing, and that's a deeper teaching there. Again, in my classes. So let's continue this here. So now, words are useful for communicating ideas and concepts, but only if we know what they actually mean. And as words are spelled or written with letters called the alphabet, or the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, which is our first introduction and instruction. So we should start with what they mean, where they originate, who created them, and how they've evolved over the millenniums. So in this class, I shall use information from Wikipedia for ease of use, because you could put it up like what my writings, I could just pull up stuff. A lot of people talk about Wikipedia, how it's not a good source to utilize because of how it could be changed or whatever. But when I use this information, I make sure that it aligns with my written information that I have in my books. But it's so much easier to just copy and paste and utilize from off the internet. It's a very useful tool. So I shall use some if you easily basically expose, and there's also to expose how Western academics over the last few centuries use words to confuse us while trying to deny through omission the Africans' creation of a high culture, which they rightly, albeit for wrong reasons, called civilization, which is a word derived from civil, which means polite, affable, courteous, or not barbarous. So therein is the reason why we are able to develop a high culture of technological advancements. They cannot hide the truth contained within, because you can develop all what we developed through having wars and all this crazy stuff. It doesn't allow for harmonious building, which peacefulness does. So this is why etymology is so valuable for correcting wrong conceptions. We shall examine the words found in the text, such as alphabet, Semitic, Prosemitic, Canaan, Phoenician, Levant, hieratic, hieroglyphic, etc., to see what truths lie therein. In this class, we shall cover various subjects like geography, history, archaeology, mythology, numerology, biblical lore, migrations, and on, because all of them are correlated. They all stem from the one source, which is Africa. And this quote that I love from Eddie Griffin is really, really great, because reading is fundamental. This is the only way to go forward, because how can I say, reading on a wide range of material, not just what is presented to you, opens up one's mind. So yeah, this is what I'm about right now. So this is my first introduction, my only introduction towards where I'm trying to go to with this knowledge. So when I look at all of this stuff here, I go into depth about, like it says, science. This word African science, my African science class developed from a long search in my life trying to find out what was right. It started in 1976 when I left school at Sales Secondary, which has now become a middle school, and I went to town, and the first book I bought was, how can I say, African's Gift to America by J.A. Rogers. Opening up this book enlightened my entire being. In 76, it was so much information contained there. This brother, J.A. Rogers, born in Jamaica, at a time when Jamaicans weren't considered, well, how can I say, still not considered anything, but Jamaicans, black people weren't considered to be Jamaicans or any place else. We have become these things nowadays, but at this time when Mr. J. Rogers was compiling this information, we weren't really considered to be Africans. This book, and the thing about this book here, he wrote it the year year before I was born, or the year I was born. So I find it great. So that makes it 60 odd years. But this information, I don't find this brother's information throughout the vast majority of people that I asked about him. And I asked people about him, do they know him? Most people answer no, but this book's Africa's Gift to America, Sex and Race, 3 volumes, From Superman to Man, 5 Negro Presidents, Nature There's No Color Line. One more, I think, is probably some more, but these books here are very much, how can I say, life-changing if one was to get them. But what I did find when I was engaging myself in this learning is that I had no one to actually show me the path. So even though I started my path in 1976, when I left school, and then that I was being miseducated on a large scale, I took a hiatus, one could say, in 1977. I went into another direction, which I thought was the same direction, but it goes to show you that, what can I say? Some things is not meant to be played with, for the most part. Learning, when it comes to learning, I think to have a guide is very necessary, very necessary. I started my learning around the time when I would have liked to have known certain people, such as Dr. Bain, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ivan Satterma. All of these people came to my attention a long time afterwards. Long time afterwards. I don't know why. I know why, but I can't. It's very difficult to say. But anyhow, when I started out with my education, I started very much reading in school, and I love reading, so that's what I did. But I soon came to realize that it takes more, such as when I first entered science, 72, we had a lesson concerning this. It was from out of a book called The Cross and the Switchblade. Now, this is very pertinent to me, because this book, because I love reading, when I read the book, I didn't understand it very much. It was concerning 2 gangs in New York, rival gangs in New York, as they called them. One was called the Mau Mau's, and I never remember what the other name was. I didn't remember any characters' names. The only thing I remember about this book is that it was 2 rival gangs, a white missionary guy coming in to, I don't even know where the place was, but coming in to break them up apart and to show them the errors of the ways. But the only name that really sticks out to me is the Mau Mau. So, okay, cool. My life goes on. Like I said, I leave school in, in 76, studying, and then I came across the term Mau Mau. Learned that the Mau Mau was an African freedom fighter in Kenya. Force. They was fighting off the fighting against the English. These brothers would go into the bush and they grew their hair dreadlock style, big Congo dreads, and it was very fearsome. The white guy said, "Look, if you go into the bush and you see the Mau Mau, and when you shoot, you make sure that with the first shot you have to hit him, because otherwise, in that deal, he will kill you. So you have to be very, very careful." And they hunted these brothers down for many years. They just won a case not too long ago for the atrocities that they underwent underneath the British. But like I said, when I learned and I realized that the Mau Maus in America patterned themselves after the Mau Maus in Kenya because they was fighting against the same force, white supremacy. This is what the beginning of gangs were. We have been told the Bill of Goods is the same gangs is taking over neighborhoods and they're looking for turf and all of this here. Gangs was formed in America to fight against the oppression that they were undergoing. And they was recognizing their origin. And hence they took the name Mau Mau. But the most interesting part for me when I learned this here, I was curious on the teacher that taught us, that introduced us this book to us. Now, he was a Christian man. So when I did see him several years after that point, he had received his doctorate, so now he was a doctor. So I asked him, did he know about the Mau Mau? Did he know that these brothers had actually taken the name of freedom fighters and they was fighting against the oppression in America? And when I asked him, did he know about the Mau Maus in Africa? He told me yes. And I was so, oh boy, you know, I could understand if you didn't know, but to say that you did know and not teach us to all us Black children, because remember in the Bermuda, the segregation of schools ended in 71. Yeah. So in 72, a class full of Black students with we have one white student in there, white female student. But this brother said that he was not about to teach us that because that was not part of his lesson plan. So his lesson plan was not to educate Black people for self-pride and with a thought to better ourselves, but he taught us to fit into the situation, the society that we're born in, which I find a problem. This is what education is for nowadays. It is definitely not to liberate the mind. They never thought to liberate the mind of African people through the education they're giving us. Their thing is to make us useful to their conception of democracy, useful to their conception of government, useful to their conception of technology. So everything that we do is based upon building up their society. And their society is based on us being useful to them, but not useful to ourselves. So when we go to school, we never learn anything on how to end this system which we're in. We're taught everything on how to be productive in the system which we're in for not ourselves, but for the overall society which is actually designed against us. So even the education that we receive, like ABC is 1, 2, 3, is we don't have no real deep connection. We're just taught ABCD down to Z, then we're taught 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3 down to 9. But then we forget any science about it. So science, like I said, simply means to know. So we know how to count, we know how to spell, but we don't know anything about it. We don't even know that the alphabet itself is a compound word and it has a meaning. You know, that's another part of my lesson because I've written several different papers for this class just over the years. I'm taking some things like numbers. So I have the origin of numbers. I have the, just a little list here. origin of history of the alphabet. My first writings, Introduction to African Science. Names is about 2 different names I got. Let me click on that there. 2 different names I got from this, and this study started from my grandson. I talked to my daughter the other night. Her oldest son, that's my middle child's oldest son, Jakuta. He comes home from school. He's about 7 years old. So he's 15 now. So that's about 8 years or whatever ago, 6 years, whatever it is. But he comes in with this lesson plan, right? Names. And I had to smile because my daughter was, when she learned, I said, "Oh, that's not a good name." For my child to be learning. It's a derogatory term. The name that he was charged with learning was Rube. She didn't know the word. I've, like I said, through my reading, my copious amount of reading, I have I'm understanding of what it is. So it's Rube. And I found that this word Rube is synonymous with hick, right? But I first had a lot of troubles trying to figure out the connection of Rube. But then hick became a veritable gold mine for etymology. So I had to figure it out. Why were they synonymous? But in my figuring out why they were synonymous, like I said, I started out with Rube, but I couldn't really do anything with Rube. So I went and done this paper on hick. Where that comes from is called an alliteration. But Rube was a little bit more difficult, but I was looking at it from the wrong direction. How to figure it out. What I came to understand as I was doing research, thinking about it, is that Rube, although it was used derogatorily for circus people, that's where the word comes from. When they would go to a place in America, circus comes from out of England. When they would go to a place in America, they would get into fights. People would be attacking them, and so when they was being attacked by the locals, the circus people would shout out "Rube, Rube," and the other circus people come to help because they knew a fight was going on, trouble was breaking out, so they come to help. So when I thought about it from that direction, that okay, fine, those being used by the white people to call down the how they call the gypsies, they call down the gypsies. The people who were the gypsies are the circus people had originated the word, so I had to look at it from their perspective. And when I did that, boy, the light came on, and I found so much information on that. There, I wrote this paper and called names, and I forget how long it is, but it's several pages long. And while I write a lot and I take a lot of information, I have to try to slow down because there's so much information. Pages and pages and pages. I have to break it back. And like I said, if you see, a lot of this stuff comes from off of the internet because it's a great source to utilize. So, like I said, breaking down words is very necessary. Seeing where we go because, like I told you before, names are very important because when you break down a name, you can find so much hidden therein. You know, like I said, we're not trained to look at the words, but if you want to really know about things, we have to go and dissect words deeply. It's not just how can I say? It's not just surface that we're dealing with. So I break down a lot of stuff, spelling, spells, and I utilize a lot of information. So let me think about one just off the top of my head, which is something that somebody put upon me not too long ago. 3 words. 3 words. And I tell people in my class, one would need a pen, paper, a pencil, paper, and a dictionary. Always something to write it down, keep memory so that one can do the research. So in my studies, I came up with 3 words to look up to study. Let me see if how I can do this. And then it's not going to come through here. So I'm going to have to do something different in screen sharing. Because I didn't really need to share screen because people need to write stuff down. I try to do things off of memory. My memory is not very good, but I find that sometimes you don't have paper and pencil available, and I can do a lot of things off the cuff. So the three words I'm thinking about right now is visit, glamour, and grammar. But it's really visit, grammar, and glamour. Now, when one looks at the term visit, one finds that it's another compound word, and hence, where's art? You find art in such words as drunkard, sluggard, and whatnot. So art actually means it's like a verb, but it's a suffix. Yeah, suffix, and it's used somewhat derogatorily. So hence the term sluggard, drunkard, and such usages like that there. But visit, right, means the wise man, hence the wheels. Yes, like, remember the movie The Wheels, but the visit means is a wise man. That's simply what it means, the wise man. Now we have the next word is grammar. Now grammar is because the question that I ask is what is the relationship between these three words? So we have the visit, and then we have grammar. Grammar is the proper way to say something, or to the proper inflection, proper turn, cadence. One could say the like chanting. You know, that's to say things properly in its proper form. So that's what grammar is. So hence they teach you how to what words mean and how to say it and all of that there. So that's what we learn in school. That's why it's called grammar school. That's the first part of learning. And then we got to the word glamour, which is a very interesting word because the glamour is to be glamorous. So when people want to go out, they get all dressed up and they look glamorous. You know, they're looking to cause an effect. The woman pretties herself up, perfume, makeup, dress, and all of that there. And to look alluring, to look attractive, to cause an effect, in effect. So that is what glamour is. But glamour and grammar is actually the same word. Grammar and glamour is the same, but anyhow, the wise man, then this is the connection between three. Magic. The wise man uses grammar to cause glamour. But the wise man used the proper words, the proper way to say things, proper intonation to cause an effect, to cause things to happen. Because in ancient Africa, we are the original wizards. We are the original magicians. Yes? And I'd say Africa because I don't like to use geographical areas when it comes to Africa. We must remember that the terms Kenya, Cameroon, fish me a shrimp, Nigeria, Nigeria. These was all came about, boundaries and borderlines came about through the partition of Africa, this mad scramble for Africa that the white people made in Berlin Conference in the 1800s, late 1800s, when they went in. And after years of taking slaves out of Africa, they decided to go in and carve up Africa between themselves. And they created all of these artificial boundary lines, and they talk about how many countries is in Africa today. But before they got there, there was not all of these demarcations that they created for themselves and left the Africans in deep confusion, still up until today. Because why we use these artificial borderlines, to me, is really, really counterproductive to freeing ourselves from the mental slavery which we're undergoing, still up until today. So we have how can I say, we have a long, long, long way to travel and a very much way to go. So this is how can I say, might say this is my first foray into this venture of e-technology or e-teaching, e-sharing. I'm hoping that it's going to go well. I'm hoping people's going to tune in and check it out. so that we could build and go forward. Like I said, there are a lot of words that we use that we don't know anything about. Um, there's like this word Kirk, right? This interesting word Kirk from Wikipedia. Kirk is a Scottish and North English word meaning church, right? It means church. Go too fast. I got to get this set because I'm gonna say, let me do this. Let me do this here and look at Kirk. Uh, let me get this set up right. Yeah, so a lot of people don't know, but anyhow, Kirk is Scottish and North English word meaning church, and more specifically, the Church of Scotland. Yes, so we find that it's a church where it comes from out of Scotland. So, but now when we look at it, where it comes from, originate from, this is the same as, how can I say, a circle. Yeah, this is when we look at these words, it has to do with stands, circles, and all of this here. It's a word that we find associated with Christianity, but it gets deeper than that there. So Kirk is a word of a person, actually. Yeah, it's a person, it's a black woman. It's a black woman. So when we get into this herd, like I said, this is a whole heap of stuff to learn and to go through. But like I said, the word Kirk, like it's a person's name. I know I got a brethren from Young named Kirk, but he doesn't. He doesn't know the origin of his name. I know he doesn't because we don't study these things. So if we look at South Kirk, Kirkbright, these names have meaning in Scotland. Yeah, but we don't know what they mean, even though we utilize them. So when we get into it, says Selkirk was formerly the country town of Selkirk. Selkirk is one of the oldest royal burghs in Scotland and is the site of the earliest settlement of what is known in the Scottish as the Scottish borders. The town's name means church in the forest, from the Old English "sow," which is hole or manor, and kirke, which is church. So this takes into a whole realm of things because we want to know that groves of trees was used as places of worship early times. Early times. Rocks was the same thing. When people talk they're going to their stands, they're talking about they're going to a place of worship, place of holiness. Yeah. So which became the church. So yeah, this is how I want to break stuff down, looking at things from an etymological point of view and extracting the information and seeing just exactly where we are. Because for me, misinformation comes from not knowing. Yes? Not knowing. So when you use things and you don't know what they mean, then we keep going wrong. Oh, I got a call from Ray Killian, but I have to call them back later. Yeah. So that was a call from Ray Killian about my car, hopefully to get done. So I'm going to call them after I did this, sir. 45 minutes.